Yay Networks.
Welcome back to In the Cards and Stars. I'm your host, Britt, and today we are going to be talking about more Capricorn season things. And the most Capricorn-coded pop culture moment that I can think of is the whole situation with Olivia Rodrigo and Taylor Swift. I'm going to pour the tea, no matter how piping hot it is. I might get a little burned, but we're going to pour it anyway. Without further ado, let's dive into the episode. Olivia Rodrigo has a very interesting birth chart. She does have Capricorn Rising, making her someone who is focused on professionalism and ambition. These people project an image that's very put together and polished. Even if, like Olivia's guts or vampire, it may be messy with the way that she has like the blood splatter and like the costumes and things, but it's very curated. These people tend to be careful about their public image. They really think things through. In what's known as past life astrology or karmic astrology, you can actually use two people's birth charts to see if they have any connections between their north nodes and their south nodes, because the north node is all about our destiny and the south node is all about our past lives, what we have already experienced, what we're good at. These 2 points in our natal charts are very, very important. And if you are looking into soul astrology, these 2 points are essential for being able to tell why you are interacting with this other person in a deep and transformative way. Wouldn't you know that Taylor and Olivia have a lot of points that interact with one another and have very, very specific meanings that actually pertain to what has gone on between them. I think that this is going to give everybody a lot of clarity. And as we look through these placements, as we discuss this, I just want you guys to know that this truly is like for educational purposes. It is not to judge or criticize either of them. All of us are here to learn and grow. This is what we're doing. This is why we're here in the first place. Nobody has all of the answers. And when we talk about these soul placements, it's very neutral because it's really up to the two people how they're going to use the energy given. We cannot really ever know exactly what someone else is going through and why this circumstance may be valuable to their soul growth. The way that I see it, especially with Taylor and Olivia, is that both of them are here to accomplish very specific things, and career is a big theme for both of them. It's something that is a theme where they're going to be living out a lot of their karma, learning a lot of their lessons when it comes to business, partnership, independence. These are like very common themes in both of their birth charts. When we look at the way that things have played out between them, we see that it may not have ever even been personal. That's the thing about a soul connection. It's like when you realize it, you can learn the lessons and let it go, because we cannot change others. And sometimes we can be the villain in somebody else's story and they're the villain in our story, right? Maybe it's just the way things are meant to be so that one person can learn one lesson and another person can learn another lesson. And that's exactly what we have with Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo. Let's take a look at their birth charts. First, let's check out their north nodes, because that's all about the direction that we're headed in this lifetime. And it can really tell us a lot about the different types of soul contracts that we have agreed to take on. If it's something really significant, it is pushing us towards that north node. So for Olivia, she's a Gemini north node. And what's really interesting about that is that means that she's here to communicate. She's here to do exactly what we see her doing now: write songs, talk about her feelings, communicate. But it's also about being social and being out and about among the people. It's not about hiding away. Now, what's interesting is that our north node directly opposes our south node. And the south node talks about our childhood, because usually that is a holdover from our past life. I know this is so wild, but just go with me on this because it's so crazy accurate. So for Olivia, with that south node in Sagittarius, in past lives and in her childhood, she lived a life that was very much about learning and seeking knowledge, traveling, being very much on her own, seeking for truth. This can be a little bit isolating, especially as a child, because this talks about being separate from others so that you can explore your truth. We all know Sagittarius as a very jubilant sign, a traveler, but also what we notice about this zodiac sign is that while it's really fun, this is about the person who truly is seeking for knowledge. And even though they're very gregarious and fun to be around and very kind and joyful with that Jupiter ruler, they also are always focused on the bigger picture of the whole, of forming a philosophy. Sagittarius is that seeking zodiac sign. That is why Sagittarius travels, to learn new things, to experience different cultures. And while someone is doing that, they're almost like gathering these notes, writing in their notebook, but never sharing it. Someone that also has this zodiac sign placement, we're going to talk about her next week, Dolly Parton, because her birthday's coming up next week. And her Sagittarius South Node manifested when she was a child. She grew up in the Smoky Mountains, hidden away from other people. And then when she got older, she started touring, traveling around and being very extroverted and among the people. We also see a lot of Gemini placements in reporters, journalists, entertainment reporters, especially because it's about society, it's about the group, it's about, gossip a little bit. So it's getting in the mix, basically. And it's not overthinking. It's not so much concerned with truth, but concerned with learning in the moment through consistent communication, through constant communication with your peers, with the world at large. It's just all about your role in society, being active and involved. It is not introverted in any way, whereas Sagittarius is that extroverted introvert. And we see that Olivia Rodrigo did play this out in her childhood because she was homeschooled. When you're homeschooled, I can imagine that this would possibly give rise to someone feeling like a little bit of an introvert extrovert, maybe a little bit nervous to be out, on the public stage. And Taylor, and I think that, okay, and I do think, I don't want to give it too much away because I'm trying to get step by step because this is so interesting to me. But I do think that Taylor helped to push her out onto the stage where she belongs. Okay, we'll get to that. So Taylor is an Aquarius North Node person, which means that her South Node is in Leo. For Taylor, her life growing up, she also was doing these things from a young age. She was shining. People naturally gravitated towards her. When she was a kid, her parents moved her to Nashville so that she could pursue singing. And not everyone's parents will do that for you. But with a Leo South Node, I do believe that she incarnated into her specific family so that they could help her pick up where she left off from a past life and become this superstar. And we see that just from the very beginning. Your South Node qualities come easily to you. One more thing to add, I think that even though we see Olivia Rodrigo putting out a lot of content and really participating in the Gemini North Node, it's also like media. So I can also see why she gained a lot of fame almost instantaneously from going viral on TikTok. But also, having a Sagittarius South Node gives someone a lot of depth and a lot of material. So she spent her childhood really honing her skills, honing her craft. So her level of writing is really, really great. So she's best of both worlds. She's taking this depth and this expertise and this really high quality songwriting, and she's distributing it via social media in a very Gemini way, putting it out into the mix. And then people are using it on TikTok. I mean, it's so cool to see the astrology unfold in the wild, as we like to say. That's what we have going on there. And then Aquarius North Node, what Taylor is striving for is to go from being the solo star on the stage that everyone is praising in the spotlight to raising other people up with you, to being that humanitarian. Aquarius is about the people, and we see that with her fandom. The way that Taylor interacts with her fandom when she's on stage, she truly does treat them like they are her friends, her peers. She will talk to them on social media. She will repost them. She is someone who is kind of a paradox because even though she's this huge celebrity in the spotlight, there are many times where we will see her be one of the people, where she will want to be among other people. She will take photos. She will participate in conversations, and she talks about how she loves people finding the Easter eggs. Like, she very much has created a community, and that is what I think the way of the future is going to be. And I think that Taylor, her North Node, we're going to continue to see it come out even more and more. I think she's going to start doing even more humanitarian work. I think that she's going to do even more things with her fandom, with her community. This is just the beginning because we actually have Pluto moving into Aquarius, which we're also talking about that next week in the Dolly Parton episode. That's so funny. But we do have Pluto moving into Aquarius January 2024. It's going to retrograde out of there for just a very brief period later in the year. And then that's where it will stay for the next 20 years. So having your North Node in Aquarius means that she's going to be one of the people having an impact on the transformative nature of our ideals as a society. She's going to have a huge impact on culture. Like I see her as like the next Dolly Parton. And anyway, we're talking about that next week. Back to it. So that's kind of the way that I see the two of them. And we can see them having similar yet different experiences as they have risen through the ranks. I think that there can be a lot of empathy and understanding there, but there are also some points of friction. So before we dive into their past life contracts, let's talk about their composite chart. Now, their composite chart is where you look at these energies and you can see how ideally these two people would function to make a cohesive, positive partnership that really works and is mutually beneficial. And all of this is based on Jan Spiller, Cosmic Love. She has passed away. She is my favorite astrologer, and she has written such amazing books that live on. So I will link those in the YouTube description in case anybody else wants to check out these books. But this is her method, and it's very unique. I've never seen anything like it, and it's also extremely accurate. So I just wanted to, just a little side note there. But according to Jan Spiller, working it out together, that's what she calls this, the composite chart, working it out together. So the idea is that two people are separate and they have their two separate birth charts. Then you do these calculations, you combine the energies, and what comes forth from those two energies, the midpoint of these two charts, is the composite chart. There's like a third entity, a third energy. It's the unique chemistry and what putting these two people together creates. So you want to operate in harmony with this composite chart energy for best results, to get along. And if you ever are like struggling with someone, or if these two are ever struggling, as I think they are, then paying attention to their composite chart can show them the way to come back together to find a mutual understanding in most instances. So the composite chart between Olivia and Taylor is actually a composite North Node in Aries in the 4th house. Now, here's why this is kind of difficult already. I mean, this would take an acrobat, an emotional acrobat, a spiritual acrobat to be able to walk the tightrope between these two things, because fundamentally they're very different. So for the two of them to get along, it's almost like they both have to hold two energies at once, because Aries is the independent energy. It's the fire starter. It is the solo person. It is, someone who starts something new, a trailblazer. Also, Aries is the most competitive sign. So it's really hard to collaborate when you have Aries as this composite North Node when you're talking about a couple. It's more about cheering each other on to do like your own separate thing. Like, oh, I see you doing that. I'm so proud of you. Go for it. And vice versa. It's not about let's do this together and trailblaze. Would be cool, but the problem is when you collaborate, typically each person isn't able to have a full expression. It requires some compromise. And an Aries North Node is here to learn about not compromising, is here to learn about being solo. That's the North Node. And it falls in the 4th house. The 4th house is home, safety, comfort. And what's interesting is we actually see this activated almost immediately. So I'm going to give you guys my first example of how we've seen this play out. So on April 22nd, and this is, by the way, this timeline is amazing, and it's all courtesy of Glamour Magazine. They put together this extremely comprehensive timeline. The article is entitled Olivia Rodrigo and Taylor Swift's Alleged Feud, explained in excruciating detail. Hilarious. It is excruciating detail. I will only pick out the main points, but that's also going to be linked in the description box on YouTube if anybody wants to go and pick this apart yourself. You will get sucked down the rabbit hole, I promise. That's where I've been living for a couple days. So back to it. So here we go. The beginning. Olivia Rodrigo has been a fan of Taylor Swift for years, and the feeling started out mutual. Okay, this is the beginning. April 22nd, 2020. Rodrigo performs a cover of Cruel Summer, which reaches Swift's ears. The talent, Swift writes on her Instagram stories at the time. Love this. Thanks for this beautiful performance at Olivia.Rodrigo at MTV. So this is immediately, pumping her up, pushing her towards that Gemini North Node, giving her this instant gratification of, wow, when I come out of my shell, Gemini North Node, and I share and I communicate and I'm not afraid to be social and to talk to my community and at my favorite artist, that is positive. I get positive rewards, pushing her towards the North Node, pulling her out of her shell. And we see that she was very, very excited by that. So in response, Rodrigo lost her mind in a since deleted Instagram post. And she said, Taylor Swift is the reason I write songs. And she posted me on her story and told me I was talented. This is the beginning. We see Taylor giving her this positive reinforcement as she makes some steps towards that North Node in Gemini, which not to say she hasn't been doing that all along, but it is a huge pump up, right? To have like your favorite celebrity notice you doing your North Node thing. She also shared this on Twitter. It was a whole thing. She said, I will never stop screaming. Taylor Swift posted a video of me singing Cruel Summer on her Instagram story. Now, was this a foreshadowing of what would later allegedly cause their rift? I believe that it was, based on what we're going to continue to dive into when we look at their birth charts. I absolutely think this was the foreshadowing. But this was the very beginning. Another interesting thing, their composite is in the fourth house. We know the fourth house is home. It's about security. It's about your family. So it's like they kind of felt like instant family, okay? Then on January 8th, 2021, the 17-year-old goes from the star of Disney's High School Musical, the musical, the series, to certified pop icon overnight with the release of her record-breaking single, Driver's License. Not only was the song an absolute banger of a ballad, but it also unveils a juicy love triangle between Rodrigo and her High School Musical, the musical, the series co-star Joshua Bassett and fellow Disney star and singer Sabrina Carpenter, who would later open for Taylor Swift on the Eras tour. Oh my gosh. That same day, Rodrigo celebrated placing near Taylor Swift on the U.S. iTunes chart with Driver's License coming in just behind Swift's Evermore bonus tracks. It's time to go and write where you left me respectfully. So what I thought was interesting about this, and this is going to get into some more of the placements that we'll talk about. But this definitely is, we're seeing this kind of violate the Aries composite energy because it's her day on this day, but she's still referencing herself in relation to Taylor Swift. Now, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but when we look at the soul contract, what they're trying to learn, what they're trying to both grow, like in their area of where they need it, it's about Olivia being independent. It's not about her, feeling like she needs to be a part of whatever Taylor Swift is doing. It's like taking the inspiration and making it your own completely and not feeling tied. This energy, it's a little bit harsh because it's almost like the more Olivia leans on Taylor, even though it's in the fourth house. So there's going to be this feeling, like we can totally see how this would happen. No shade to Olivia, by the way, and no judgment whatsoever. This is all for a reason. We're all here learning different things. But we can see how Olivia would naturally lean on Taylor, almost like a mother figure because of that fourth house connection. And Taylor may have thought of Olivia. Well, she did think of Olivia in that way as well. We'll see that here in a second. But it was a natural thing to do. It felt natural, fourth house connection. But then she was supposed to maintain her Aries independence. and so it's hard. It's like, how could she have known this? She wouldn't have. So that's why there's a lesson here. So on this day, she references Taylor Swift, definitely giving us a little bit of a foreshadowing with that Aries composite that this is going to maybe be difficult. She's going to possibly be pushed away from, by Taylor at some point. The next thing that went down that was significant is Driver's License on January 9th, 2021. By the way, this was a 9 personal year for Olivia Rodrigo, a year of wishes fulfillment, like wishes being fulfilled. This is like if you work really hard in numerology years 1 through 9, 1 through 8. 8 is like when you start to see the fruition of your hard work. And then 9, it's kind of like tying up loose ends, learning some lessons. No surprise that their interactions really started around this time because she was about to embark on an entirely new era, if you will, in a 1 personal year. So this was the year for her to learn these lessons. But it was also the year while she was learning lessons and tying up loose ends and kind of preparing to graduate to the big leagues, if you will, of becoming an international superstar, she was getting some wish fulfillment. And this was like a dream come true. Okay. On January 9th, of 2021, Driver's License pulled ahead of It's Time to Go and Write Where You Left Me. Now, this is when my intuition is just telling me this is when that fourth house energy really started to kick in for Taylor. Because before this, it was like Olivia was just like a huge fan of Taylor, and Taylor's probably like, oh, how sweet, whatever. But I think that it became a little bit more personal. And I promise we're about to look at the other planets that really indicate how you're just going to see how this is just wildly accurate. So January 10th, 2021, Taylor celebrates Olivia on Instagram, writing, I say, that's my baby, and I'm really proud. Rodrigo shares a screenshot captioned, what is breathing? Okay. And then Olivia says over on Twitter, she writes, thinking about legally changing my name to Taylor Swift's baby. Wow. Astrology in the wild moment, if I've ever seen one. That is a direct reference to the fourth house connection. So it has now been solidified. There is a genuine familial feeling. This is not just, some people have said that it was like more manipulative or whatever on Taylor's part or on Olivia's part. Absolutely not. This truly did become, it activated. This placement for them activated. This composite chart became active. So here we are. We're in it now. We have entered the soul contract. As of February 4th, 2021, Rodrigo tells Nylon about belting out Swift's picture to burn when she was 4 years old. By the way, fourth house, 4 years old. I don't know. That's just kind of a random little God wink, I think. 4 years old, calling herself the world's biggest Swiftie. Okay. So it has been solidified. The bond is there. The Aries energy, we've seen foreshadowings, but we have not seen that really come through yet. They are settled here in that fourth house connection. Now, here is the reason that I think things kind of took a turn. When we look at their north nodes and the way that one's north node falls in the other person's chart and vice versa, we can see this is very neutral, by the way. This part isn't the soul contract yet. This happens with every single person. So, if you and I were to meet, my north node would fall in one of your houses, yours would fall in one of my houses, meaning that is the energy that we activate in one another. That's how this thing kind of works. So this could go either way at this point. The gifts that they bring each other, which is the activation in one another's birth charts. For Taylor, her north node falls in Olivia's second house. So Taylor, being in Olivia's life and vice versa, activates the qualities, the lessons, the energy of Olivia's second house. Now, this second house is about our possessions. It is about what we value. It's also about our self-esteem. It's about how we build wealth, how we make money. It is our income, which sometimes can be tied to our self-worth in many ways. And so interesting, right? So in certain connections, this could indicate that someone's going to help you make money or you're going to make money together. They stimulate your ability to make money. Now, when there are other past life contracts at play where the lessons that you're learning can be a little bit more challenging, this person could end up doing the opposite, which is what we have seen happen in the case between these two, which we'll get into in a little bit. The gifts that Olivia is bringing to Taylor, or the activation, it says gifts, but I'm going to start calling it the activation because truly it can be a gift. It's a gift on a soul level, right? But in our day-to-day, sometimes a gift can feel like a curse. Like when we're going through soul growth, it's like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And sometimes that doesn't feel great. Olivia's north node falls in Taylor's seventh house. The seventh house is about partnership. And this is so interesting to me because a seventh house connection is always going to feel like someone wanting to be your partner, someone rushing in with a proposal, either to like marry you, it could be a romantic partner, but it could also just be someone who sees what you're doing and naturally wants to work with you. They want to merge resources with you, be a partner in something. They feel immediately this connection, and like if you guys do something together, it will be successful. They would prefer to work with you than work alone, okay? Which that is already in opposition to the Aries energy of their composite. The seventh house, bringing partnership in the seventh house, it can be great, like I said, depending on the soul contracts. If it's just like a north node soul contract, you guys don't have any unfinished past life business, this could actually end up being a very fruitful partnership, especially with the seventh house activated for Taylor, the second house activated for Olivia. You can see why on the surface, these two would have the exact right energy to feel like, hey, could we work on some songs together? Could we do some things together? Like Taylor giving Olivia gifts and posting about her and pumping her up and being like a supporter of her, like a partner of sorts, promoting her. Yes, we can see how they did this. And this is why it's so interesting how it's always just so perfectly like touches your heart and their heart and in just the right places to draw you in so that you can learn the lessons. So we've seen now the draw in, okay? They've both been drawn in. The fourth house connection has been completely activated. The seventh house, the second house, like we see it unfolding. Now, this is where it gets complicated, and these are the soul lessons that I think both of them came together to learn. And this is all based on the aspects, which are their past life contracts. Let's start with Taylor and the North Node. Let's start on like a high note. Let's be positive to begin with. Taylor's North Node is conjunct Olivia's Mercury and Neptune. Now, we see this literally every time Olivia has spoken about how Taylor has inspired her in so many different ways, from her writing to the ability to feel like she could maybe do this too. Truly, having the North Node conjunct someone else's Mercury and Neptune, this puts Taylor in the position of a role model for Olivia. And that's positive. That is part of the past life agreement, to be a role model, to show Olivia the way. And the Mercury connection is also extremely significant for Olivia because with Olivia having her North Node in the zodiac sign of Gemini, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So this is a direct link to Olivia's North Node purpose, which is what I was kind of like alluding to earlier. So for Olivia, this is an extremely, extremely transformative relationship. She hasn't spoken about it exactly, but I am one of the people that does believe that The Grudge is about Taylor Swift. So if you just listen to those words, you'll see kind of what she has learned that has helped her to abandon, some old illusions so that she can continue to be in the public eye and do her Gemini North Node communication thing. But here we go. So every time that Olivia has spoken about Taylor prior to Olivia's second album, Sour, when things got really complicated and Olivia started to go back into her shell, started to retreat a little bit. We didn't see a lot of this gushing or positivity like we saw in the very beginning. But what we did see in the beginning, before this little turning point, is that every time Olivia spoke about her, she talked about how much she admires Taylor. For example, March 1st, 2021, Rodrigo received a meaningful package from Swift, and she said she's absolutely the kindest individual in the whole world. She said in an interview with SiriusXM, actually last night, like literally 12 hours ago, I got a package from her with this handwritten note, and she gave me this ring because she said she wore one just like it when she wrote Red, and she wanted me to have one like it. And like all of this amazing stuff. Okay, I want to stop there because if we look at the fact that she gave her a ring and said she wore one just like it when she was writing Red, that directly is encouraging Olivia's Mercury, saying, like, it gives me the chills. Taylor was giving her a ring so that she too could write, so that she too would be more inspired to write, saying, I approve of you. Like, I mean, this sounds kind of strange, but it's like, in a way, a mentor-mentee relationship, which, oh, by the way, that is another hallmark of the fourth house connection that can very often become, it either feels like family or a mentor-mentee. So there you go. Definitely that's what it was. So in the beginning, really encouraging Olivia to write, stimulating her Mercury, pushing her towards her Gemini North Node of communication. Olivia goes on to say, and this is where her Neptune has been activated, okay? Because Taylor's North Node also is activating Olivia's Neptune. The planet that rules, it's like the higher octave of Venus. So it's creativity, it's inspiration. It's also illusion. But because this is a North Node activation, it's this sense of encouraging Olivia to believe in her dreams, like quite literally, because Neptune can be about your dreams, the subconscious, but it's also like immense creativity. And like I said, the higher octave of Venus, Neptune also can refer to fandoms, people who believe in an idea so much that the idea becomes larger than life. Neptunian, it is like something that takes you out of this realm and into the next, transcendent. So, okay, keep that in mind as we continue on to see what else Olivia had to say on March 1st, 2021 about this gift that Taylor gave her. She said, I feel so lucky that I just was born at the right time to be able to look up to somebody like her. big time fandom, right? Big time dreams. I think she's incredible. And all of her support and like genuine compassion and excitement for me has just been so surreal. Surreal is like a Neptune keyword. Moving right along, this is kind of there's such a high, right? And that's also very Neptunian. But regardless of how things continue to unfold after this, at that point in time, Taylor's interaction with Olivia pushed her forward. According to the soul agreement, like Taylor showed up and did her part. Okay, so amazing. Now let's talk about the South Node connections. This is the past life stuff. These are the things that can be descriptive of someone's past life energy, even with the other soul. So this can talk about how Taylor and Olivia in a past life may have already known each other. They may have been through certain things and they may owe each other. This lifetime could be a karmic payback where they both kind of owe each other something. Taylor's South Node is conjunct Olivia's Jupiter. Wherever the South Node is, based on this overall chart, the way this all looks, I'm going to say that this South Node, it's not just about continuing a past life connection and maybe building and encouraging each other to build on a foundation that you already had in your past life, and then you're moving to the future together towards those North Node things. Based on everything that we have already talked about and the way this looks to me, I think that this is a karmic lesson type of thing. So Taylor's South Node being conjunct Olivia's Jupiter is really significant. So Jupiter is, again, it's kind of feels similar to Neptune when I think about it, but it's also conjunct Olivia's South Node, by the way, anyway, okay, hold on. Back up. There's so much. So Taylor's South Node is conjunct Olivia's Jupiter. This is very, very significant because Jupiter is associated with like Sagittarius themes, but like the gregarious side of Gemini. Like we've talked on this podcast during Sagittarius season about all of the gifts that Jupiter brings to you. Wherever you have Jupiter in your birth chart, this is like where you really feel like anything could happen. You may receive gifts. You may receive financial gifts, lucky breaks, windfalls. That is what Jupiter is all about. Jupiter is the jolly, fun, like Santa Claus that brings you gifts, just wants to see you smile, makes you happy. And when you have like really positive Jupiter energy, you feel optimistic. You have just like this almost childlike wonder and belief in your dreams coming true. And it's a very open energy. It's like you're open, you trust people, you just believe that things are going to work out. And that, all you have to do is just believe and it'll happen, right? It's this energy that is really beautiful and can help us in many ways. But because Taylor's South Node is conjunct Olivia's Jupiter, I believe that it really did drain Olivia's sense of belief and optimism, especially when it comes to her role in the entertainment industry. And we can really see that when we look at this quote. So when Olivia was asked, so around September of 2021, after months of fans comparing Good For You and Paramore's 2007 hit, Misery Business, Rodrigo retroactively credits Swift's close friend and Paramore frontwoman Hayley Williams, along with Williams' bandmate Josh Farro, on the track. According to Billboard, Rodrigo gives up 50% of the royalties on these songs to these additional writers, resulting in the loss of millions of dollars. Okay. I believe we had this negative Jupiter, draining energy. I feel like Olivia was really in her Jupiter optimistic energy of like, I just believe in everything and I believe it's all going to work out. We see her at the height of this, sense of belief, this optimistic, extroverted energy of just Jupiter and just, kind of just talking and being open. We really see this April 7th of 2021 during an episode of Rolling Stone's The Breakdown. Rodrigo praises Swift again, saying she was inspired by Cruel Summer while writing The Bridge of Deja Vu. Now, this sealed her fate, in my opinion. And this was the turning point because basically by verbally crediting Taylor Swift's song with the inspiration for Deja Vu, she laid the foundation for what would happen later, which would include claims that, there was enough inspiration that Taylor and her writing partner would need to get credit on the song, which they would later receive, and a percentage of the royalties, resulting in Olivia losing millions of dollars, all from a sweet, optimistic comment, possibly just intended to once again pay homage to her idol. And so for me, this is giving like more of that Olivia's North Node falls in Taylor's 7th house, like pushing for the partnership with Taylor in a very subtle way. You know, not overtly, but like kind of encroaching on Taylor's territory. And also opening herself up for these, you know, repercussions. Like she said the words herself, which, you know, hey, it happens. It's okay. It's all part of learning lessons, but I'm sure that was very frustrating. Another thing that happened that I forgot to mention right before this that is significant, and this is another instance of Olivia Rodrigo kind of, you know, in some ways encroaching on Taylor's territory maybe, but Taylor could have said no at the time, but she didn't. And here we go. So May 21st, 2021, Sour was released, and Taylor Swift and Jack Antonoff were credited as songwriters on the song One Step Forward, Three Steps Back. And Rodrigo explained this on the Zach Sang show by saying, we interpolated New Year's Day, which is Taylor's song from Reputation. I came up with the One Step Forward concept, and I sort of wrote a verse and a chorus, she says. I was in the car on a road trip, and when I got home, I decided to sing it over the chords of New Year's Day. I think they're really beautiful chords. I was lucky enough to get that approved, and it's on the record now. So this was created loosely, you know, on a whim, and this is what I believe activated the next major placement that we are going to talk about right after this. But just to close out talking about Olivia's Jupiter, Taylor's South Node, that connection. To recap, Olivia was acting very Jupiterian, felt like she could just be honest, you know, say, oh, you know, I admire Taylor and part of the reason why I did this and thank you for liking my song is because like Taylor inspires me and this and that. There was, you know, what resulted was disillusionment because she did lose those millions of dollars. And later, after the dust settled, what she had to say about the whole experience, just in a nutshell, was that, you know, the way that this whole, her experience in the music industry it was difficult. She realized that all that glitters is not gold. That is Jupiter right there, Jupiter and Neptune. Oh, wait, here we go. I have the exact line. After, you know, this had all kind of blown up, I'm sure Olivia was kicking herself for saying that and giving credit to Taylor Swift and then later losing that money. I mean, very stressful, which I'm sure is why a lot of fans think that Vampire was about Taylor, which we're going to do a tarot reading about that here in a little bit to see the tarot tea truth, allegedly. But in an interview, Rodrigo vaguely addressed the drama surrounding the Sour album. She said, I was so green as to how the music industry worked and the litigious side, she says. I feel like now I know so much more about the industry, and I just feel better equipped in that regard. It wasn't something I thought about too much. She also denies that Guts is a breakup album, saying, it's so much about growing up and finding your footing in the world. I was 19, I had all this zest for life, Jupiter, but also was in this industry for the first time. And that can be kind of alluring. Ooh, there's all these exciting people and exciting things. All these fancy, shiny new toys. Neptune, North Node Neptune. Okay. I'm sorry. I hope you guys are just as blown away as I am. This is wild. So, in her words, that was how she experienced the connection. And in her words, she has now moved away from that. I do believe that Olivia learned the intended soul lesson, even if it felt like the loss of an idol or the loss of a dream. And I think that the reason that happened was for the purpose of her becoming her own idol, so to speak. That Aries composite node, Gemini, you know, Gemini North Node. Speaking your truth, what you believe, being your own artist and having the confidence to do that, not relying on other people because she has a unique purpose in this world, as we all do. And she basically said that, you know, also in conclusion, just I think the aftermath of this, the way that she's matured so much, she said, I don't have beef with anyone. I'm very chill. I keep to myself. I have my 4 friends and my mom. And that's really the only people I talk to ever. There's nothing to say. There's so many Twitter conspiracy theories. I only look at alien conspiracy theories. So this is the closing out of that chapter for her of, the disillusionment, of putting other people on a pedestal. And I do think that the soul lesson for her was to experience that. So I do think that she got the karma from that she needed to move forward and be so successful and continue to be as successful as we all know she's going to continue to be. She's so talented. It was a hard lesson though. And these soul lessons are not always easy. And we can't see into someone's soul, so we don't know exactly why she needed to learn this, but she learned it. So that chapter is closed, and I'm sure she is stronger for it, and she will continue to be a stronger woman, artist, human being, Gemini North Node person. So good for her, and sending her love, because I know that was probably so hard. Now, to talk about Olivia's South Node conjunct Taylor's Mars, where I left off with that, and it's so wild because all these kind of like weave in together, right? But this, for Taylor, now I think that this placement was activated for her way back when Olivia first wanted to collaborate on the One Step Forward, Two Steps Back. Now, she did this kind of like in a roundabout way. It wasn't something with boundaries that she had discussed earlier with Taylor and with Taylor's team. Again, I don't think it was malicious. I think this was part of the soul lesson. This is the way that they are learning from and with each other. But according to the past life astrology, someone South Node conjuncture Mars, it's all about activating your inner warrior and having to measure the way that you deal with it, because the way that you would normally deal with something like this, it doesn't work in this case. If you go head on towards the situation, if you charge, towards the situation, Mars is the warrior in us, in our charts. It's when we fight for what we believe in. It's when we are passionate. It's anger. It's what riles us up. It's our defense mechanisms. It's all that stuff. Because it's conjunct Taylor's Mars, it's like the shadow side of that Mars energy. So going straight for it, for example, if she would have made like a music video, kind of like what she did with her feud with like Katy Perry, or address this in a song, with this placement, it would have had a negative impact on her because the connection drains Taylor's Mars energy. So, and what's funny is it kind of like sobers her up, and it's helped her to become more balanced. Just like with Olivia, her Jupiter being drained, that extreme optimism, it helped her to balance out and be more, realistic and grounded about this industry, about other people, about how important she is as well. It's not always about these idols. You are your own, like you are the master of your own world. And for Taylor, she had to really work with her Mars energy in this connection. That was the soul lesson for her, learning how to deal with, oh my gosh, feeling like someone who wanted to be your partner, but then kind of rushed in and was almost trying to cross some boundaries to where maybe it even seemed like she was feeling a little bit of a loss of identity, because this placement, combined with the seventh house, it can be a loss of identity if you don't maintain your own sense of self, which is why the composite, recommendation for it to work and for like a friendship or business partnership to work well, there has to be Aries energies present, because it's too much merging. The two people involved can definitely lose themselves in one another and lose their sense of self-identity. So it started there, but then she had to go about things in a very covert way, if you will, using the right channels, and really focus on getting her due. And I know that some people may or may not agree with that, but overall, we do see that this was first kind of activated within Taylor. I believe with the one step forward, two steps back thing, she did give her permission, allowed her to use it, but I think that it was a little bit of a crossing of a boundary. And then after that, I think that Taylor had to figure out how to go about this whole scenario in a way that honored herself and her sense of independence without like overtly becoming an enemy. You know what I mean? And so that's why I think that it was very complicated. I think that what Taylor learned from that is about the importance of having boundaries, and in being okay with saying no, being okay with loving people and wanting them to do well, but also making sure that they're aware of your need for your own separate identity and just learning about boundaries. And Taylor has been learning about boundaries for a long, long time. So this is, this is wild, but this concludes my in-depth analysis of their past life connections. I would love if you guys would leave in the comments what you think about this. I know it was like very all over the place because there are so many different things that have gone on between these two. And I didn't even cover like the half of it, but this podcast isn't a full day podcast. So anyway, I thought it was fascinating. I am just glad that this karmic connection has ended because we went on to see Olivia go into a one personal year in 2023 and just kill it and be her own solo self. She's about to go on tour. Like, we see that whatever she needed to learn, I do believe that she learned it, and she is strong and independent and ready to continue to pursue that North Node of Gemini. And then Taylor, I think that from this whole experience, she was also validated in believing that other people still do look up to her, that, she had a song that came out where she talked about, it's called Nothing New, where she was concerned about someday being irrelevant. Well, I think now she knows that she's not irrelevant. And I do think that Olivia helped to remind her of that, to remind her that she has a huge impact on people, and that her music inspires other music, that she isn't, it's not over for her, that she's just getting started. And we saw her have an amazing 5 personal year in 2023 and became Time Person of the Year. So I think both of them are doing amazing. I think that they fulfilled their karmic contract with one another, and just want to send them both love as they continue on higher and higher on a positive path forward. The karma is done. So let's get into this tarot reading to see if Vampire was ever about Taylor. We'll spill a little bit of tea. Is Vampire about Taylor? Most importantly. 3 of Swords, yes. Oh my gosh, you guys. When the tarot tea is just so dead on, allegedly for entertainment purposes, 3 of Swords, yes. Oh, I can't believe we just got like a yes like that, right? Wow. And this even looks vampiric to me because of like the swords and stuff going through the heart, like a stake through the heart. Yes, this Vampire was a product of heartbreak, intense heartbreak, and that heartbreak led to this 3 of Swords feeling. So she was expressing it. She was expressing her angst, her emotions, her difficult times. Let's see how Taylor feels about Vampire. Probably not great. Oh, we got 2 cards. We are going to take them. Wow. Okay. Justice and the World. She actually, after listening to the song, she actually felt like the karmic wheel is turning. Olivia is the next generation, and it's karmically right for her to assert herself and say these things to her fans. So Taylor actually didn't blame her, even though you think that she would. She didn't. She didn't blame her. She said, to herself, she was thinking like, it is time that justice is served, and it is time that these things change. So, I'm not going to worry about it or protect it. I'm just going to let things kind of unfold. And that's really what she did. So that is that on the tarot tea. That's it on Taylor and Olivia. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I would love to hear all of it. And please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And I will see you guys in the next episode. I love you so much. Have a good week.
Yay Networks.